Hello, everybody. Tom Phelan again here with another 8-minute parenting tip. Our topic today is getting kids to listen. When I do trade shows and answer emails, this is probably almost the most frequent question that we get here in the office and in our practice. A couple of examples. You're riding along with the kids there in the back seat, and they are fighting like cats and dogs. You yell, "Knock it off back there." And what do? They keep fighting like cats and dogs. Second example, you have a son, he's 11 years old, and at the dinner table you say, "Do you have any homework tonight?" Hour later, he's sitting in the family room watching television. And item number 3, this guy wants something to eat before dinner. It's about 15 minutes to dinner time. He asks for some potato chips, and you tell him no. You give him a veto, and he badgers you with why. So you wonder sometimes as a parent if your kids don't speak English or whatever the language is in your house. They probably do, but let's look at this problem a little bit differently. What if it went like this in our 3 examples? You say, "Knock it off back there," and one of the kids says, "Sorry, Mom, we know it's aggravating when we fight while you're driving. We'll stop. Do you have any homework tonight? Thanks for the reminder. I forgot I have a ton of stuff to do. I'll get right on it." And the veto before dinner. "No, you're right about the potato chips and pop. It's way too close to dinner and I wouldn't be hungry at all." So this would be pretty surprising, wouldn't it? That would be delightful, and that's what we hope for. In fact, this is what we wish fondly, how kids would respond to us. And that's what we wish. And we parents don't give up our wishes easily. And believe it or not, this wish of ours has a name. It's called the little adult assumption. The little adult assumption is the idea in our parent brains that children are just smaller versions of us adults. They're basically reasonable and unselfish, and they respond well to logical, helpful reminders, requests, and commands. Sorry, if you were wanting to wish that or believe that, that's incorrect. What do we usually do? When we want the kids to listen, we typically give spontaneous, means on spur of the moment, commands, requests, reasons, explanations. We often do this in an anxious or angry voice. Children, on the other hand, are naturally impatient. They're focused on now, what they're doing. They don't want to be interrupted. They're self-centered, they're easily frustrated, and they're very emotional. So you put all this together, what do you get? The results are that kids don't listen. So our first thing for today is an attitude adjustment for us adults. You may not care for this, but we have to think differently if we're going to get better results from our kids when it comes to listening. So we have to learn to think what I'm going to describe to you right now. Typically developing, or what we sometimes refer to as normal children, do not usually listen very well. Okay? The problem is worse the younger they are. And if we don't change our attitude, we won't look for different strategies. We'll keep doing the same thing, the anxious, angry commands, requests, explanations, and so on. And we'll still be complaining next year that kids don't listen very well. So we have to leave fantasy land and come up with a plan. What's the plan going to be? Well, the overall philosophy you want for your plan to get your kids to listen and to be a good parent is to, number 1, avoid spontaneous commands and requests as much as you can. You can't always do it, but spur of the moment is not good. You want to train kids for independence. This is something we are lousy at, absolutely lousy at in the United States. We train our kids to respond to spontaneous commands and requests from parents. We don't train them to be self-starters. We want to take into account the age and executive functioning skills of our kids, which I'll show you on the next slide. And we want to establish routines for getting these things done when we want the kids to listen. So executive functioning, you've probably heard the phrase, but it's the ability to remember and carry out a plan. And executive functioning ability and stamina, if you want, gets stronger and longer as the kids get older. So a 6-year-old can remember and carry out a plan, take about 10 minutes. So you can do about 10 minutes of homework in a 6-year-old, about 20 minutes of homework in a 7-year-old. And you see it's going up about 10 minutes per year, roughly, for a task that is fairly boring, not the most exciting thing in the world. Don't forget, preschoolers are not on this chart, but they go up to 10 minutes. So a 4-year-old, you could think maybe they can do 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or something like that in sustaining a plan. So let's look at a couple of our examples that we're, some of the ones we talked about before, and talk about what else could we do if we want to get the kids to listen. This happened to me just this morning. I saw a mom with her little girl who's about 4 years old, and the girl was riding the bike down the street, down the sidewalk, and they were coming to a street. As the girl got close to the street, she was slowing down. The mom said, "Stop." And the little girl keeps slowing down, and the mom said, "Stop," again, in kind of an anxious voice. I'm going to suggest something this mom could have done. It's called wait and praise. Instead of doing the spontaneous, anxious command as she did, if there's a high probability the girl's going to stop anyway, and I bet with this little girl, she would have stopped. She was almost stopped anyway. What mom could have done is wait until she stops, okay, and then praise her. "Wow, you remember to stop at the street. That's great." After the little girl had self-started and stopped her bike on her own and didn't have to be commanded or requested or whatever. This is training for independence. Let's do another example. We had a little boy before at the dinner table. Mom says, "Do you have any homework tonight?" Now this kid's, let's imagine he's about 11 years old. So his executive functioning skill is going to be up 40 minutes, 50 minutes, maybe an hour, something like that. This kid likes school and he likes his teachers. So we're going to do natural consequences. We're going to tell him, "You're a big enough kid now to be able to remember your own homework without a reminder from mom." And reminders are going to be outlawed from mom, dad, or anybody. And we're going to see how you do. Okay? This kid likes school. He likes his teachers. So what are the parents going to do? They're going to coach. They're going to praise. They're going to encourage. They're going to listen, but they're not going to remind him to do it. Again, this is training for independence. It's getting the kids to listen to what? Get their homework done, but on their own. Let's do another example. Sibling rivalry. We had that example. The kids were fighting in the car. Now, how much of executive functioning skill does it take to stop a misbehavior of some kind like fighting? It only takes about a half a second. So here we're going to use counting from 1, 2, 3 magic. We're going to count both kids. We're not going to ask the world's stupidest question, who started it? And we'll pull our car off to the side of the road if need be, if the kids hit a rest period or timeout. We're going to say nothing in terms of explanation. What is this doing? It's training the kids to get used to the idea of monitoring themselves and stopping it. And they stop it with the first count, and they get more and more independent as time goes on. So another way of looking at this is that listening means two things. Sometimes we want the kids to listen because we want them to stop an obnoxious behavior. And sometimes we want the kids to listen because we want them to start a positive behavior. In 1, 2, 3 magic, we have two strategies for these things. For obnoxious behavior, we use counting. And for positive behavior, we use routines. We're going to set up routines for the kids so they don't have to listen. We don't have to go through this command, "I hope you listen to me" routine. So the book is 1, 2, 3 Magic. This is kind of an introduction to how to get the kids to listen. And there's the website. Best of luck to you.